Hi, we are talking about how to categorize transactions within the bank feed. So we are over here in banking under the banking tab. We have all our transactions feeding in from our credit cards and checking accounts. So we're just going to, in this module, we're just talking about categorizing a basic transaction. So it's not matching to anything. It's not a transfer, nothing complicated. It's just a transaction that's happened here in the bank feed. It could be money coming in or money going out. Let's take a sample one. So let's do this Books by Bessie. To start categorizing it, you just click on the line and it will expand here. And then we need to give QuickBooks a few pieces of information to tell the system what this is. So we're going to tell QuickBooks who the vendor or customer is. So either who we paid to or who we received money from. And then we're going to choose the category. So this is the account. And remember when we set up our chart of accounts, we had a listing of all the accounts we were going to use to categorize transactions. So we're going to choose the account. So this is really the type of transaction. So if this is a meals expense or an advertising expense, or maybe it's consulting income, or it could be cost of goods sold. So we're choosing the category here if it's already created, or we can quick create it if we don't have the account already. We'll talk more later about making it billable. That's an option, a more advanced option you can choose. And you may want to add a memo, just kind of letting either yourself or someone else know what this transaction really is all about. So let's categorize this one. And we want to make sure we've chosen the categorize radio button across the top. And this is an area where people get into trouble a lot because QuickBooks will sometimes automatically choose one of the other options. So if you just hit add, it goes to the wrong place. So make sure if you're just categorizing a basic transaction, you want to have this radio button chosen for categorize. So then we want to go down here and choose, you always want a vendor or customer. This will help you to search later. It helps when you run reports. Oftentimes we will use a more vague vendor. So if you have a lot of meals coming in, don't put every single restaurant in there. Just have one vendor called meals. That's totally fine. And same thing with travel expenses. That's another common one that I'll just have travel expenses set up. And I'm not adding, say, every single hotel or airlines or gas station. So that can help. But typically we want a specific vendor. So in this case, Books by Bessie already populated for us, but if we needed to add it, we could just go to add new, and then you can add the vendor right here and hit save. So really easy to quick add a vendor if you need to. But we already have our Books by Bessie here. And then let's say this is maybe a continuing education type expense. So let's see if we have that. We can start to type it. It's not there, so we can just add it. We just click on add here. So we would just have to choose the account type. So this is an expense. We can just call this other business expenses. That's fine. And continuing education and then save. So now we have our new account created here. I might just make a note for learning course, whatever it is for, just to give you a little more information. And then you would hit add. So once you hit add, it is now added to the books. And what that means is it will show up in the categorize tab now, which is great. It will also show up on your reports. So if we go and run a very quick profit and loss for, it's already running for this year, so that's great. And we went down to our continuing education line item. That's where it is. So I like you to understand the full process of where this transaction is going. The end game is that you want to see everything on a report so that you can understand what your income is, what your expenses are, what your profit is. So that's really what you're doing here is you're categorizing the transaction so that it will eventually end up on a report and you can get information that you need. So that is categorizing a transaction within the bank feed. We'll talk through some of the other categorization options in future modules.